Really enjoying Battlefield 6 so far, but these infantry meat grinder maps are becoming quite fatiguing. They play well on most modes, but legacy Battlefield fans returning this weekend will surely feel the pacing is too much like its competitors and not what sets Battlefield apart with its moment-to-moment gameplay and tactical decision-making. Even the biggest maps in the beta, Operation Peak, is a two-lane cluster with very little room to play as a jet or heli. We've now seen a jet gameplay where this dude went 63-1, as well as the heli gameplay, two-seater. I was even with Tom for a couple of those. We did get some good use out of it. It's a bit busted because one team has a massive advantage over the other team because it was bugged in the beta. But you guys tell me what you think. Bigger maps in an open beta right now. These are relatively smaller maps that we saw. But he says we need more all-out warfare options, but I guess it's too late to throw a larger map into the mix for the beta, question mark. We are getting one more map that we haven't seen, at least at our home setups. We saw it at the event. That was the Brooklyn map. But that one doesn't even have any tanks. Even for Conquest, it's infantry only. If the devs are considering weapon balancing and taking feedback from these small maps, how is that balancing going to transfer to maps like Operation Firestorm when the average engagement range in the Battlefield 6 betas are 50 meters or less? The longest range fights that I got into were on Peak, specifically for Outbreak. There was some sniping engagements that were like 100 to 200 meters pretty continually. I know a lot of people, even on Conquest, are getting up on the mountaintops using RPGs or anti-air in combination with snipes to hit some long rangers. Just thinking out loud here. What do you guys think of that? And this, I think this is a very fair point. My question is, how many big maps are we even going to get? We had like the large 128s in the last game, and so the maps were absolutely enormous, 100%. But now we're going back to much closer quarters. A lot of the maps that we did get featured were, like even the King of the Hill mode was essentially, what was it, 8v8? Like domination, TDM, much, much smaller maps, modes, super fast respawns. And I think in those in particular, you didn't even have vehicles. You didn't even have jets. And it didn't feel like, oh, I got to go play engineer now because I got to counter this tank that's driving up on me that you would feel by playing a Conquest in an all-out war. Now I'm going to lose this fight because I'm a support who doesn't even have any way to deal with this tank that's right in front of me. And now you feel stranded. It's like, yes, now I do want to play as a team. I do need to have the engineer with me. And you respawn so fast. You don't need the support to resupply your ammo to get you back into the fight. Can agree about the pacing. Not enough risk versus reward when it's instantly respawn. You get right back into the action. Played the mode once and got rolled by a shotgun squad. We should at least be vocal to get the big maps. I know it's beta still, and this isn't the final product. I'm sure Operation Firestorm works. But even if we have Operation Firestorm, I think it's still going to be pretty limited in the sake that, let's say that's the biggest map, which I think is a big enough map, honestly. But how many of those are we going to get? Is it going to be one more? Is it going to be two more? And then for the people who like to play vehicle mains and do the big all-out warfare, to the point of what he's saying here, which I'm guessing is what Tom wants to do. He wants to play the big Conquest feeling stuff. Will there be enough of that? And I think a big part of that is we'll have to see what actually happens with Portal once Portal's out. And will that allow people to make big enough maps for those bigger experiences, throw on extra vehicles, balance it however they want to? How difficult is it even going to be to do that? My guess is that it's going to be pretty in-depth, at least from what we saw from the actual trailer of the gameplay for it. There's nothing wrong with the chopper controls as long as you change the right things in the settings. Conquest maps are Battle Royale or else. Well, there's a Battle Royale coming too, and that's going to be a larger map. And if you use that as a canvas for it, that could be interesting. We need Operation Metro and Rush again. Even Metro for Rush is a relatively smaller map. That's more similar to what we were even playing on this one. Because there was no jets, there was no helos on that. There was no tanks either. Maybe there was a vehicle in the last sector or the first one. I don't think it was for Rush in particular. Some people would do Metro with like no explosions even. So they would take frags out and all those things. Or they would ban it. So if you use that equipment, it would kick you from the server. Salem Freeze also, welcome to the squad. In my opinion, if I wanted COD maps, I'd go play COD. Thankfully, the game runs smoothly. It looks beautiful and it's fun. I do think there is an element that even if you're playing COD maps, it'll be a different style to it because you're going to be able to destroy lanes. Like if there was a wall in COD, those lanes are so locked in and you are never going to change that. If there's a tree in the way, that's to block the LOS there. If the window's shut, it's to block the line there so you can never look down that. But in this, you just blow a hole open in the wall. So I do think there is an enticing element for that may pull people from the other games. Same thing with BR. I think that's the biggest hope that I have for a Battle Royale for Battlefield. It's not even necessarily the vehicles, it's the destructible environment. The closest thing that we have right now is in COD or is in Fortnite, really, if you're doing no build. That's where, like, somebody's hiding in a building, you can blow the whole thing up with an RPG. You can't build another wall there. It's just gone. Battlefield doesn't really have a looting system, which is essential for Battle Royales, isn't it? Yeah, and even the system that they had for Firestorm wasn't that great either. There was a lot of problems with it. That tweet is exactly why I'm kind of disappointed. Yep. There is larger map, but we won't see it in the beta. Yep. And so I think the concern then is if they're balancing everything based off of the smaller maps, how is that then going to feel when we do get to the bigger maps? Operation Peak was a terrible map, in my opinion. Look at the 9 map descriptions of Battlefield 6 website. We are only getting 3 big maps, maybe 4 if considered Operation Peak is a medium large size map. Okay, so then let's say we get 3. That's still pretty good, but you know, there is also going to be a lot of smaller maps as well, which will be more infantry based. And we don't have a lot of new maps off of future DLCs, off of the portal, and that might not be enough for a lot of people. And this is usually how it goes for like multiplayer games for me, is I always love them. Like I usually have a good time with any of the new Battlefields that come out, especially, you know, I played the heck out of Hardline. I was doing daily videos on that game back in the day. For Battlefield 1, for Battlefield 5, I started to fall off a little bit more. 2042, I didn't really do much, but I play through all the games, the maps, the modes. I try a couple of the vehicles that stand out the most to me. And then, you know, if there's no other new maps after that, then I'm good. And I enjoy my time when I'm on it, but I'm also not going to play it for like 1,000 hours or 5,000 hours of a game. That's where I need a lot of new content, new maps and everything for it. Maybe Portal will be the solution for that. I don't know. I had a decent enough time playing each of the different modes as well. The destructible environment was half horrible for this game. It looked like a piece of foam falling. Then the rubble would disappear. It's not supposed to disappear. So it's definitely better than what it was. It's not full, like, all the rubble's there and stays permanently, to your point. Definitely not. And they called it tactical destruction. I think visually it was very cool. But not every wall was destructible as well, to even the point of the COD and certain lanes staying up. Even in this game, there are certain routes and lanes that do not open up. You can't completely topple a building, at least not on all maps. There was more on the Peak map, even for like the domination, where you could level most of at least entire buildings around some of the objectives, like the Bravo objective, the building that was towards the ravine side. You could just flatten pretty much that whole building and open it up. And you could expose the exterior walls, even on like Cairo, the second floors, the first floors, but the stairwells always stayed up. So you knew to nade into that kind of pocket there. Love those tactical decision making. Half the map full of snipers who delete you the moment that you spend 20 minutes enjoying the scenic emptiness of the open map. People hate Hardline, but it was a great game. And even that had some good massive destruction and like levolution effects on it, with like the crane coming down, or on the grow house map when the tank blew up in the back and opened up the different routes you could take. This is insane. Listening to you people have such strong opinions from the from a free beta. There's definitely some strong opinions. There's definitely some strong ones. I think a lot of people want the game in a different way. And going back to my point of like, I think there's a lot of different micro communities that want different things out of games now. Hardline was underrated. But yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to have to see what the bigger maps that they do release are. how the new maps that they create are, I do think them bringing back more old maps is like a no-brainer. If it's something that even the community can easily build and recreate, if there's people that are good enough and they can create it in Portal and bring it back, I think that'll solve a lot of the problems of Big Map, as well as just being able to Portal set up like closed classes and being able to set the vehicles and everything. I think that'll solve quite a bit. But I do think new maps are better than old maps. I think the old maps are free wins that I got to imagine isn't as hard to do. Maybe it can even just be recreated by the community. But I do think the new maps are important. I got to say, I enjoyed Peak. It was definitely a smaller map, though. And to that point, I do want to see what the bigger new maps that they're creating, what they're going to feel like. I'm hoping that it's not just on Firestorm that we got to actually take off with the jets, for example, or go out and do 1,000+ meter sniping. But we'll see.